Welcome to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. These are casual chats with visiting artists. Creaky barn, bugs, and all. Enjoy.
Hello, this is Chris, and welcome to Conversations from the Barn. I'm here with Bill Underwood and our artist in residence, Bart Buch. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're so happy that you've been with us this week.
It's been amazing.
Oh,
so
good.
I'm really happy to be here too.
Tell us about it.
Where to start?
Right.
You've really been spending a lot of your time, it seems, in the barn.
I have. I spread out a lot. I came with I have a puppet show that I've been working on for 2 years. And I came with the idea that I was going to spread out. It's a cranky show. So it's got 3 scrolls that you crank. That's why it's called a cranky. And it's visual images on paper. And I thought I would use the barn. It would be perfect to like spread out in this long barn and watercolor 100 yards. And then I didn't do that though. I realized that I've already done one test painting of the cranky, so already 100-yard watercoloring, really quick. And I realized that I have flaws in the storyline, and so I have to go. It's really intricate because each cranky tells a different part of the story, so you have to gauge it just right. But I organized it, so that was really important. So I'm ready now to do that somewhere else. And I also just I use the time to dream, about a lot of different projects and just have some respite from the city. I did enjoy the barn a lot. Like one end was set up with my puppets stuff, and one end was set up with the music stuff because I'm trying to create the music for the show too.
Let our audience members know what your art form is.
I'm a puppeteer. I'm a puppet artist. Yeah.
And where have you worked over the last, couple of years?
The last couple of years, I've been working at the Samia Center for Healing in the Arts as the executive director. But before that, I was an artist for In the Heart of the Beast Puppet and Mask Theater for 25 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
In what capacity? Just
I was an associate artist and a core associate artist, and then I was the education director for the last 12 years. And I was also on the artistic leadership team for the last 5 years, which I helped create.
Which, if for those who are not familiar with the organization, they were behind the May Day Parade for decades as well.
Yep, we founded the May Day Parade, and I've done 23 consecutive May Day sections. And yeah.
Tell us about the art form. I'm kind of fascinated with it.
Wow.
That's a really broad question.
Well, puppets.
Yeah.
Puppets. There's a lot of things. I feel drawn to puppets. I feel like they're my vocation. I like puppets for a lot of different reasons. I'm shy. And instead of drawing attention to your body like an actor does or a dancer does, you have an object that you imbue for the audience to view, and of course they view you too, but if you're doing a good job as a puppeteer, they're watching the thing more than you. So that's, I also love it because you create whole worlds. So when you create a puppet show, you envision it, you write the script, you create the music, you create the puppets, you rehearse it and perform it, you direct it a lot of times, and sometimes you don't do all of them, but a lot of puppeteers do the whole thing. And so you could, with that kind of input, and you get to create these worlds that every aspect of it a little bit. And there's something magical about puppets that is really hard to describe. And there's many angles that you can come at the magic from. There's something that puppets get away with that actors can't, that because we project onto them. We project onto this thing, whatever's inside of us, and it becomes more perfect in a way, a more perfect representation of whatever we want it to be. An actor might not quite get it right. Or like there might be something that mixes with them. But an object might not get it right too, but it's more accepting of what we want to put onto it. And there's something magical also about bringing life to something. You're taking an object and I don't feel like you're giving it life, but in my approach to it, you're listening to the life that's already in it and around it to bring that out. And since you helped create it and already have been listening to it, a lot of times that's you're in touch with what wants to come through the materials and medium. So that's sort of the way I look at it.
Do you remember as a kid, like the first puppet show you went to where you were like, I want to do that, or I'm going to do that?
Yeah, I used to remember being a young puppeteer and thinking, people would be like, oh, I remember I put on puppet shows when I was 5, and I was like, I didn't do that. But what I loved puppets on. I mean, I was a TV child of the 70s and 80s, and so I was in front of the TV a lot, and so I watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and that's where
There really was a period, kind of a puppet, culturally popular puppet period.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought about that.
And then I would sit for hours and play with objects by myself, like cars, and I was a really easy kid, my parents say, and then I could just be left alone with toys and objects, and I didn't even need playmates. It was just me and the things, and I made whole little worlds out of them. So that's where I attribute like my roots of puppetry, is just playing with toys, like creating little worlds.
Do you remember the first puppet you ever created? Let me rephrase that. What is the most impressive puppet you made as a young person?
Well, impressive as a young person. You mean like a kid,
memorable?
or like?
How about that?
I didn't get into puppets until I was in my mid-20s.
Oh, wow.
And so I started, I guess I was my early 20s when I was in Vermont, and I got exposed to, I lived in Brattleboro, and there's a company there called Sandglass, and they're sort of a great, they also have a barn, and they have a barn, it's a puppet theater, a barn puppet theater. And so I got really enthralled with them. They're actually in Putney, really close to Brattleboro. And then Bread and Puppet is out in Vermont too. So, but then, like, what did I create? Well, I'll tell you my first mask. When I came to Minneapolis, because of In the Heart of the Beast, partially. And I was also an elementary teacher. And I made a Joni Mitchell mask. That's my first mask that I made in the May Day parade. And it was horrible. It looked like an alien, kind of. Of course, I had really high cheekbones, and I just, and it had like cut fabric for her hair, and a beret, and a cardboard guitar with her lyrics written on it, and and so then everyone at the theater sort of was like, "Oh, the Joni Mitchell guy." They just referred to me as the Joni Mitchell guy for a while.
Even if they didn't recognize the face, they could at least...
They knew that I was the guy
see
that
the
liked
lyrics.
Joni Mitchell, yeah.
In the puppet world, who inspires you?
A lot of people. I mean, puppeteers in general inspire me. Puppeteers we're a very particular kind of nerd, and if you go to a puppet conference, you'll know what that means. Well, when I was just getting started, I worked with the Walker. The Walker Art Center asked me to work on a project with Basil Twist, and who I'd been following for a long time, and so that was pretty thrilling. And he was a hero of mine. I think we're the same age, but that was really thrilling. And so then I worked on a couple projects with him in not super big capacities, but that one, it was actually big. I was a puppeteer, and it was one of my first gigs, honestly. And so I feel like, yeah, he inspires me. People who do, and I would say, and then the Sand Glass Theater that I mentioned in Putney, they made big influences on me because they both deal with like poetry and puppetry and don't have exactly linear narratives. Or Basil has an abstract puppet show that just uses underwater scarves, and I'm not quite that abstract, but I like to not go full linear, and I like to. My shtick is like poetry and puppetry, is mixing the two, and with sort of an immersive musical language. Yeah, but anyway, Basil Twist and I think Sandglass Theater too, and I mean Bread and Puppet is iconic, and then I just have a lot of friends that I just love their puppet work. In Minneapolis. Minneapolis is a hotbed of puppetry. Not many people if you're a puppeteer across the nation, you kind of know that, but not many people know that in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the cranky machine.
Yeah.
Cranky show.
Uh-huh.
So it is you were talking about 100-yard
Yeah.
watercolor, because it's a consecutive sheet that you would then scroll.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about needing to edit it. Mm-hmm. How does one edit that?
Well, yeah. So it's in three. Each one is around, like the top one is probably like 36 or 37 yards, and then so they add up to 100 yards.
Okay.
But good question. And so that's why I'm like trying to be. It's hard because then you have to cut the paper and put a new piece in, and if you're really picky like me, that looks you can get away with it, but it doesn't make you happy that you have this piece that's cut apart in the middle.
You just connect it on the back, then
You just cut it, and then like just cut it vertically, you know, and then use packing tape and then you tape both sides to make
bring
sure
it back
it's
together. Okay.
So I'm trying not to do that, and that's why it's taking so long, and that's why I did a practice paper, and that's why I couldn't start this week. Is that like I don't want to have to do that. Mm-hmm. It's gonna break my heart, I feel like, when I have to do that, but I know that I'll probably have to do that. I'm just hoping that I don't have to do it very much, or at all. So
Can you talk at all about the show you're creating?
Oh, sure. After leaving the theater, I sort of felt like it was a good time to go back to basics and kind of get a beginner's mind on again. So I went back to my very first puppet show that I created when I was around 25, and I did it in my backyard for my friends and neighbors, and it was about a salmon and a starfish falling in love. And it sort of uses black light, and that also was sort of a crude but charming show. And I'm remaking it in a totally different way. It's based on a bedtime story that my best friend Jen, told me one night after I'd had a disappointing date. Oh. And in the salmon and starfish are sort of outcasts in their own little communities, and they like to do different things than the other starfish and salmon, but they float into love, and then they adopt a baby salmon, and so it's also a story that's close to my heart right now, because me and my husband are getting ready we're adopting
Oh my gosh.
a kid. So
congratulations.
yeah, so
Exciting.
I didn't really exactly mean it exactly that way when I started making it, but then it coincided, and so that's why I'm also very picky about it, because like it's telling this story that I feel like I told, that was like a wish in my 20s, and now maybe is coming to fruition. So that's what it is.
Very sweet.
What is the instrument that's to your left? Remind me of the name of that.
This one or that one?
That right there.
That's an auto harp.
An auto harp. Mm-hmm. That is I haven't seen an auto harp in a very long time, and it's bringing back memories of grade school, like fighting to be the one, because we would have had one in the entire grade school, and so in music class you would fight to see who could play the auto harp. And that's what you're using to create most of your
Just some
music?
of it. Just
Okay.
actually
You
maybe
had a
the
lot of instruments out.
I
Yeah.
did. I had the auto harp is just used. Do you know Cat Power, right? The singer.
No.
She has a version of the song that was maybe in the '80s, "Sea of Love." You'd know it if you heard it.
Really?
Anyway, it's a version. It's a cover of it, and so I want to use that cover for it. It's "Sea of Love," and yeah, it's really easy.
Is the show you're creating a one-person show then, or?
Well, I've
is there an
wanted it to
ensemble?
be, but I think that Seth and I are gonna have to perform it together. It's too much. Like I can't run 3 crankies. There's also 3D puppets in it, shadow puppets in it, and then create the music. And some of my shows I've done use a looping pedal, so you sort of put the music. Like one of us can create music, and then you put it on autopilot on a loop, and then you go puppeteer for a while, and then someone goes and changes it. And maybe they play it live for a while, or maybe they put it on a loop, and so we sort of like toggle back and forth from the puppetry to the music.
Wow.
Puppet shows are a lot of work.
There's
A lot of world building.
They are, but I'm going to use the ukulele, and that's a Shruti box that makes a like really pretty drone. Yeah.
And you're creating your own music for the show.
Yeah, I think that, kind of. My friend Martin Dosh, who I collaborate with a lot, is also kind of helping me and maybe loaning me some beats and some tunes from his stuff. So it's going to be sort of like part acoustic, and then part electronic. Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
We could do it here.
I think the answer is yes.
Okay, great. And the idea is that I want to tour it to beaches. It's like, so I want to do beach tours
perfect.
like around the country, around Minnesota, but around the country. And I was hoping I could just take it to any beach in the world, but I think I've got to create a different set for that, or a different. They can make us. There's this thing called suitcase shows where you make puppet shows in a suitcase, and that would be the ideal thing to do.
I suppose a freshwater trout stream wouldn't be the right setting for a starfish and a salmon.
Yeah, it could be.
Lawn sprinkler.
I think that actually the salmon was a trout at first, and I changed it to a salmon because there were some inconsistencies.
How has your time been in nature here?
Oh my gosh, that's one of the best things. Here, you just become part of the landscape, a little teeny speck. I loved walking the paths a lot, and going to the prairie and going in the forest. And thank you for telling me about the lightning bugs. I went down and saw the lightning bugs at dusk in the magical land, and these two bucks with fuzzy antlers. And just the constant birds. I love hearing the constant birds. And it's that time of year too where you're just like, it's pretty gorgeous outside. So you just feel really like you can be in your element and you don't have to worry about protecting yourself. Well, it's from sun maybe a little bit,
But it doesn't get any greener
no, it doesn't.
right now.
No. Yeah, no, it's just gorgeous. And I think that it won't kind of hit me until I leave, and yeah. I mean, it's hitting me, but then you become acclimated to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, walking around here last night, I was like, oh my gosh, it's magical here.
I'm curious, is there anything about your process or your environment or your energy or how you spend your time that you want to bring back with you?
Yeah, like from here?
From this time?
Part of that's internal and part of that's external. And so like just being here, it feels like it allows you to sort of access internal places. So don't know, I feel like in our lives, and especially in the city, you kind of like lose, like, and you get caught in your daily grinds, and you just kind of like lose those nuggets of who you are and why you're doing what you do, and so I feel like some of those, I got back in touch with some of those core things here, just having time and space, so much space to, a whole barn lets you really, and it's kind of uncomfortable at first, I think, sometimes in a way, to have everything fall out with so much space of your head and your heart. But then it's pretty easy to put it back together. So I think that getting in touch with those nuggets is what I want to bring back. And then just the sense of peace here. I feel like in my neighborhood, there's not a lot of peace. It's really a hard situation in Minneapolis right now, where I live. And that peace is something I want to bring back. And just, it's hard to lose some compassion in the whole situation sometimes too.
Yeah.
So that's
beautiful. Maybe a firefly will show up in a puppet show somewhere.
that's a great idea.
Just saying.
Good idea. Yeah.
We have a tradition in ending our podcast with the same question, and so we'll ask you, how have you experienced beauty today?
My favorite weird thing that I think is beautiful here today is the weather vane. And sort of every day, the metal weather vane on top of the silo that gently creaks. That metal vane. It's a great sound that surprises you and makes you look up. And sometimes, not all the time, but some of the time, and just check out what the weather vane is doing and check out what the sky is doing. And so I find that weather vane on top of the silo really beautiful because it shows you which way the wind's blowing and just gently wakes you up a little.
It's so vocal, but I can't remember a time in a podcast where we've actually heard it.
Oh, come on.
We were talking about, before, like, there's always going to be some natural sound that'll pop during this, and we've heard just about everything during these podcasts.
I don't think. Yeah.
But that weather vane has never...
It's crazy. It's so, it's so considerate.
Right.
She is considerate.
She is considerate.
She likes to be a surprise singer.
No. Thank you for joining us this week.
Thank you
Thanks
so much for...
Thanks for chatting with us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
You bet. And we hope you bring your artwork back here. We would love to experience it here.
I'd love to bring it here.
Beautiful.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. Our theme music is provided by John Mark Nelson. Wishing you all good health.